Our 10-day visit to the Kruger National Park started on the 19th of November 2022, just before the mad rush of the festive season in December. The rest camps were relatively empty at this time of the year, and we were able to book all the campsites we wanted in the southern part of Kruger. We entered at Crocodile Bridge, and after a game drive we spent the first night in the camp. Then the next day a slow drive northwards to Lower Sabi for the night. The next 2 nights would be spent in Skukuza, with lots of game viewing in the area, followed by 2 nights in Satara, where we drove the famous S100 road looking for the elusive white lion. Then the long drive back to Skukuza for another 2 nights. And our last night was spent back at the Crocodile Bridge rest camp, giving us ample opportunity to explore the areas around each rest camp. On entering the park at Crocodile Bridge, we picked a campsite at the rest camp and went off for an afternoon game drive. Our first sighting was an elephant in the distance and a number of male impala on the river bank. A little further on, we stopped to admire a herd of giraffe. We continued our drive northwards and turned off onto the Gonamdwana Loop, where we saw a tree full of vultures, and some had landed on the ground. Then we saw the reason why they were there. There was a lion kill. A pride of lions was devouring a buffalo carcass. This old male lion had eaten his fill, and it was now the turn of the lionesses and cubs to do the same. On our way back to camp, we came across a family of warthogs with their cute little baby piglets. These 2 cheetahs were just lazing in the grass, enjoying the afternoon sun. Then, just outside Crocodile Bridge camp, a dazzle of zebras crossed in front of us. The next morning we left camp and headed for Lower Sabi, where we were going to spend the night. Our first sighting was a few wildebeest. Then we turned onto the Gomdunwana Loop, hoping to see some action at yesterday's lion kill. But there was nothing, not even a single bone. There was just a solitary giraffe looking around. The scavengers had done their good job of cleaning up. A little further on we stopped to admire an elephant crossing the road. A cheetah sighting is always very special. As we approached Lower Sabi, the game became more abundant. A beautiful little steenbok and some lion resting in the shade of a tree. Around every bend there was a herd of elephant, ready to put on a show for the tourists. There is always some action at Sunset Dam. This yellow-billed stork was living dangerously, but reaped the benefits. We then drove into Lower Sabi rest camp and found a nice camping site. We left bright and early on Monday morning and headed northwards towards Skukuza. A little further on, we stopped to watch a herd of elephant with a few young ones. Now I know where the wet patches on the tar come from. Impalas drop their babies in early November each year. These babies were just a few weeks old. We entered Skukuza, where we would be staying for the next 2 days, and set up camp in a shady spot as it was oppressively hot. During our stay we took many drives exploring the surrounding area, where we were lucky enough to have some really nice sightings. Lake Panic Birdhide is a beautiful place to spend an hour or two because of the vast variety of wildlife sightings that occur there. Our 2-day stay in Skukuza came to an end with a beautiful African sunset. As we left Skukuza and headed north towards Satara Rest Camp, where we would be spending the next 2 nights, we came across this hyena walking along the road, which was a nice start to the trip. Unfortunately, we only saw a herd of elephants in the 2-hour drive to Satara. We checked into Satara and found a nice shady site. Here again we took numerous game drives to explore the surrounding area and had some lovely sightings over the next 2 days. We saw many baby impalas, just a few weeks old, who were the splitting images of their mothers. We took the circular route on the S100, hoping to see the elusive white lion that is in the area. Unfortunately, the S100 did not produce a line, but led us into the Gutswani Dam, where there was quite a bit of activity. A little further on, we came across a herd of elephants standing in the shade of a tree, effectively blocking the road. We had to wait half an hour for them to move on. Then we saw our lion. Not a white lion, but a lion nevertheless. On our way back, we spent an hour in the Sweni bird hide, where the birds were fascinating, especially this black heron that produces this foraging umbrella when fishing. And that brought our 2-day stay at Satara to an end. Today we left Satara on our way back south to Skakuza, where we would be staying for 2 nights. We were lucky enough to have some special sightings along the way. We detoured off the main road to spend a quiet half hour at Orpen Dam. And it was really quiet, as we saw no game at all. But it was really nice just sitting there and enjoying the view. Back on the main road, we had a few more interesting sightings before we arrived at Skakuza later that afternoon, checked in and parked in a nice secluded campsite. This time we decided to venture a little further afield and took a drive to Afzal picnic site. Our first stop was at Matakanyani Rocks, which has a splendid view of the surrounding area. Back on the road, we were fortunate to see this large herd of elephants with so many babies. Lots more babies. At Renosterpon, there were no rhinosters, just a couple of Egyptian geese, but a herd of elephants soon arrived. A little further down the road, we saw our first and only rhinoster, or rhino, in the distance. Then on top of a rocky outcrop, we spotted a klipspringer silhouetted against the skyline. Sunday morning was overcast and drizzly as we left Skakuza for Umdumlozi picnic site. Our first sighting was a lioness lying in the grass. Sunset Dam was totally deserted, which is quite unusual, as there's always something to see. We crossed the fast-flowing Sabi River, but when we arrived at the turn-off to Umdumlozi picnic site, it was closed due to the heavy rains of the previous night. On our way to Crocodile Bridge, we were delayed first by an elephant and then by this hyena. We spent our last night at Crocodile Bridge Rest Camp and left the next morning. The southern part of the Kruger National Park is renowned for its plentiful game, and it certainly didn't disappoint this trip. We had an amazing 10 days full of some really incredible sightings.